Since I was a kid, I've been fascinated by stories. Not just the what, but the how. How lives change. How moments unfold. I realize the answers, they aren't always in books, but they're with people too. That's why we started this show, to uncover the extraordinary in the everyday, one story at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to ACTV Storytellers. This is a show where we highlight some of the lives and share some of the stories of the people of Anderson County who have made positive and lasting impact on our community. Today we welcome Shelley Collier to the Storyteller stage. Shelley is a remarkable individual who has not only achieved athletic greatness on the basketball court, but also has successfully transitioned into a successful basketball coach. From rewriting the record books at Lake City and Anderson County High School to winning a national championship with Pat Summitt to leading her own teams in athletic greatness, Shelley's impact on the game and the people in her sphere of influence has been second to none. So Shelley, welcome to ACTV Storytellers. I can't wait for people to hear what you've got to say.
Well, thanks for having me. I hope I can tell a good story.
You will, because when we started this idea of doing the show, your name kept coming up a lot, and actually, a little surprise for you, you were mentioned on the very first show. We interviewed Jody Wright and Clark Wormsley, and both of them mentioned you about that you should have been here for that show, and that's quite a coaching trio right there between the three of you guys.
Well, we've been blessed for sure. We've all grown up in the same place, so. That just says a lot about, Lake City and the people that were in our lives at that moment.
Well, and that's kind of where I want to start, want to jump in there. So talk about growing up in Lake City and how that community and the people there influenced you.
Well, being from a small town, you take a lot of pride, and everybody knows everybody. You go to church with the same people that you go to school with. You're at the ball field with the same people. You're at the swimming pool. It really was growing up on 4th of July. We had the fireworks. We had things going on all the time. There were some really great leaders and mentors in our community that were pillars of faith, and had tremendous impact on the youth and kids growing up in Lake City.
How did sports become such a big part of your life?
Well, there wasn't much to do back then, but play ball. I mean, we didn't have cell phones or videos or games, or, we were outside playing hot box or pitch up and kill or whatever, softball or basketball or whatever. We were always active, and I just naturally just enjoyed being active and athletic. I grew up with, I really liked competing against guys a lot because, I don't know, girls didn't really get out and they played with Barbie dolls and such, and not that I didn't, but I just really liked playing ball.
Well, so what did playing for your hometown mean to you? Like when you put on that Columbia blue uniform, I'm a little younger than you, so I remember watching some of the things that you accomplished in your career. What did wearing that Columbia blue uniform mean to you?
Lady Laker blue, I have it on right now. Yeah. So, it's just a great color. First of all, I love Lady Laker blue. It's similar to the Lady Vols blue.
Right.
We had Converse high tops, the Chuck Taylors. That's what
canvas.
We wore. I actually would wear them to bed because when I made the team as a fifth grader, I didn't want to take my shoes off. So, that I still have a drill call. I call it the Lady Laker shooting drill. We have a drill call that I've used everywhere I've gone.
So you made the middle school team your fifth grade year?
Yeah, they could only take one fifth grader, and I made it. So
So you made the middle school team as an elementary student?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I did. But my grandmother's one that got me started playing basketball. Pete Emmon. My mom says she played when my mom was in college. She was still playing. I mean, the games obviously changed, but my grandmother and another lady put together these teams that would play in between the halftime of the boys and the girls' elementary school games. They were like 6-minute quarters, and so I think I was in third grade. That's when I actually started playing ball. But it was my grandmother that that first, was very instrumental in us getting started because we didn't have little leagues to play ball in. But I just have always had a passion for it, and even when I was in, elementary school, our Mr. Richardson was our PE teacher. We did those fitness tests. We had field days. I thrived on that stuff because I didn't really have that great of confidence in myself in the classroom. I struggled to read. So athletics and being loving sports was a way that I had confidence in myself.
So, at what point in your life did you start realizing, hey, I'm pretty good at this? I mean, when did it start dawning on you that you were?
Yeah, I don't know that I ever thought I was better, or, had arrived or was better than anybody else. I just loved to compete. I just wanted to win. I was always very passionate about whatever it was. Mm-hmm. I think I was the first girl in Lake City also to play baseball. So I played that and just grew up playing different sports, but basketball was definitely my passion. I think when I got to high school and started being recruited and going to these really all-star type camps, that was the first time I realized that I could play, and I wasn't ever intimidated of really any player. I always just felt like I could outwork them or out-hustle them, and that I didn't try to be anybody else but myself.
So during your career, you started out at Lake City. Mm-hmm. You played 3 years at Lake City, and then your final year at Anderson County when the school opened.
Right.
What were some of your most memorable experiences or accomplishments during your high school career?
Let me back up and just say that James Amos was my elementary school coach, and he was before his time, really. He truly was. He made me shoot a left-hand layup and work on my left hand. He recognized the ability that I had as a fifth grader and carried me on the team. That's when we played half-court basketball all through my middle school years, except for when we got to 8th grade. Now, the summer before 8th grade, that's when Pat was really pushing across the country to get women's basketball to be 5-on-5 and not 3-on-3 half-court. And so they were allowing us to, if another team that my 8th grade year wanted to play a full-court game of basketball rather than half-court, if both coaches agreed, then we could play that. And except for when we had tournaments, we would go back the district and the region and all that. We would play just a regular 3-on-3. But Mr. Amos, James Amos, that whole summer, he prepared us, and we worked and we practiced full court basketball. And that was innovative on his part to really do that, so that by the time we got to high school and it did change to 5-on-5, we would be prepared. Mm-hmm. And we actually did play Jefferson County, which Carolyn Peck, she's a big sports figure now. She does a lot of color of the games. I think we actually played. That was who we played our first 5-on-5 basketball game against. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to high school, and of course, Coach Cross, Tony Cross, came in, and man, he was so detailed in his practices, so fundamental. They were just very fundamentally sound. As a next step to Mr. Amos, it just seemed like it was a great transition for me because I was ready for that next step, prepared in high school. And then defense, man, he taught us how to play man-to-man defense like nobody else. And he knew and saw the potential in me again as a freshman coming into knew that I could potentially have the ability to play big-time basketball. We even went so far as he took us to Louisiana Tech when that was a premier program in the country at that time. Coach Barmore was the coach, and they were, like I said, the best in the country. And we traveled all the way to Louisiana Tech for camp during the summer one time. So they started recruiting me, and credit to Coach Cross for taking the time out to take us there. Mm-hmm. I don't remember how many of our teammates went, but there were several of us that went. But yeah, I've had some really great coaches, and growing up in Lake City, one of the things my junior year, we went 35-1 that year. We were really good. A lot of us had played all, growing up together. Regina Pageant, Sue Roberts, Virgie Doherty. I'm trying to think. There were several. They were older than I was. I was a junior. They were Karen Morton came in from Kingston, and she's about 6'3", and so we really had we gotten so much interest, and we were pretty good. we actually played, after the boys would play first, and we actually played second because we were packing the gym, and people were really coming to watch us.
Coach Cross used to have you guys scrimmage the boys, right?
Yep, we did. I remember one time I did some kind of fancy move, and he told me not to do it again. I'm like, okay, and I just did it naturally, but I think reason why he didn't want me to do it, and it wasn't when I was trying to be a hot dog. It just kind of came natural, and he just said he didn't want everybody else to try that move because nobody else could do it. But I just watched game growing up when I wasn't practicing. I was watching, the men's pro team NBA league. I was watching Magic Johnson, Dr. Julius Irving, and I would watch Isaiah Thomas. I'd watch all the guys play, and I would try to go out and imitate what they were doing on TV. So that's what I did, and I just learned by watching.
Well, I remember, and if you took me back to the Lake City gym, that's now named after your dad,
right?
And I can take you to the spot in that gym where I was sitting when Pat Summitt walked into that gym to watch you. And I know she was there to watch some others, but she was certainly there to watch and recruit you. And I remember where I was sitting, about half the people in the gym were watching the game, and the other half of the people were watching Coach Summitt as she was leaning up against the wall eating popcorn. Yeah, I still remember that. Yeah. Those white, red, and blue bags. If that the butter would just seep through. She was, and everybody, half the people were watching you guys, and everybody else was watching Coach Summitt. And I remember thinking, I think I was 11 or 12. I remember thinking, we must be somebody because Pat Summitt is in the gym, and she was there to see you. But that kind of validated all of us. How did you feel?
Actually, she was there with Mickey DeMoss, who was the head coach at Florida at the time, and then Sonia Hogue, who was the head coach at Louisiana Tech. I believe all three were there at the same time. I believe they were all three there at the same time watching our game. Karen Morton, like I said, was a senior, so they were recruiting her, and she did go to Tennessee. It was like you were nervous, but you were excited at the same time to have coaches actually come from the Division I level and be interested in you and watch you. Yeah, that was exciting. I think it was exciting for everybody.
Well, I know it was all the talk of the town after it was over. It's like, can you believe Pat Summitt was in the gym? It's pretty neat. So I have to ask you this. You and I spoke last week, but I continued to do some more research about you after we were done, and you still hold the record at Anderson County High School for most points in a single game, guys or girls.
You think somebody would have broke that by now? Come on, let's go. Really?
47 points, and I'm not really good at math, but I did the math on that. In a 32-minute game, you scored 1.46 points per minute, so almost a point and a half a minute.
Okay, well, Pat was recruiting me. That was my senior year, and I was kind of holding back a little bit because sometimes people kind of get jealous, I think, and just you want everybody to like you and appreciate you, and then sometimes when you're talented, there's always people that are going to say things no matter what you do, and so I think I was really struggling as a senior and wanting everybody to like me and not really performing at the level that I was capable of performing. And Pat said to me before that game that she was coming to watch me, and she wanted me to understand that I did not need to be afraid to be good. And that's what she said. You do not need to be afraid to be good. And so I went out, and I was in a zone, I guess, and it was just one of those nights.
There's no three-point line then.
That when you talk about great motivator, she was a great motivator. Like, she literally put me at ease, and I went out that night, and we actually lost a game by 1, believe it or not. We did.
I did not know that.
We did, which I couldn't believe. It crushed me. So all that night, which was I was just having the coach Cross, I think, was just in shock too, really, and they were keeping track of the score. But I got fouled a lot, so I think I was 18 or 19 for 20, 18 for 19 from the foul line. So that was where a lot of the points came when the clock was stopped too. So. But anyway, yeah, it was disappointing because we actually did lose, and I was devastated. But Pat was really just ecstatic about what she saw and my performance. And Coach Barmore was also recruiting me at the time from Louisiana Tech, and he had never flown to see a recruit until he flew out the next night to watch me play. But I didn't have the same repeat performance.
If you'd had back-to-back 47, that'd have been something.
But anyway, so I remember that time because it was around Christmas time. We were at Bearden, and we were in a Christmas tournament, and that was a good time for them to come. And like I said, having Pat Summitt there in that gym, and then also Coach Barmore being his first recruiting flight, that's when they really started going out and recruiting at that time a little bit more heavily, the head coaches.
Right.
So that was pretty special.
So talk a little bit about your recruitment. You mentioned it. So how many colleges recruited you?
I probably had over 500 letters. I don't know, from all over the country. I had gone to my parents. Let's mention my parents. What they were able to do was also recognize the talent, and they were able to put me in places to where people could see me. So my mom and I spent a lot of summers traveling at camps, playing in BC All-Star camps, which was the big top All-Star camp you had to be an invite only to. So I started getting invited to those camps my sophomore, junior, and prior to my senior year. So I actually went 3 summers to those camps where they put this jersey on you, have a number. There's players from all over the country, and there's coaches sitting up in the stands just watching, all the games. And it was hot because it was in, I think it was Milledgeville, close to Milledgeville, or Tipton, Georgia, where the gyms were hot. And you played literally all day long and in front of coaches. And so that's one of the things my mom and dad were able to do is afford for me to go to that camp and get the kind of exposure. And that's where I started getting a lot of recruitment from.
What I know you told me it kind of came down to UT, La Tech, and North Carolina State.
At the time, in the recruiting process, you could take 5 official visits. So I narrowed my choices down to South Carolina, Georgia, NC State, Louisiana Tech, and Tennessee. Those are my 5 visits. I took all 5 of my visits where we go officially and they pay for those visits. You stay overnight, you get to know, you watch the practice, you get to know. It's kind of, I don't know how much the rules have changed, but they've changed some. But that was a neat experience to be able to do that. Andy Landers was the coach at Georgia. He's a Tennessee guy. He was a smooth talker. He was a little intimidating, quiet, and he was back then very handsome and had his hair all slicked back. And there were some really good players that he had on the team that I respected. One of them was a 4-time Olympian, Teresa Edwards. She was a very talented, special player. But I ruled those South Carolina, Georgia out pretty quickly, and it came down to NC State, where Kay Yao, she was the head coach there. If you look her up, they do a lot of raising money for breast cancer because that's what she died of, is breast cancer. And so, there's been year after year she's mentioned or recognized, and she was an unbelievable person and coach, and I really enjoyed getting to know her. She came and her assistant to our house and had a visit in home, because you get 3 of those. So NC State was one of them, and then Louisiana Tech, and then Pat. So once you narrow it down, then they come in, and in September they come into your home, they sit down with you, and they visit you and all those types of things. And you cook a meal for them, which we did. When I got a visit from Louisiana Tech, that was my senior. This was my senior year. Mm-hmm. With Anderson County High School, Sonia Hogue comes in and she pulls up in a limousine in front of Anderson County High School, and everybody's like, "What in the world?" So they were really trying to get me to come to Louisiana Tech.
And they had just won the national championship, they were good. So
they Tennessee and them were going really hard back and forth. Pat didn't do that; she didn't pull up in a limousine, but that's okay. I rode in her car with her. This is how we went. Okay, so this is how the recruiting story happened. So I really got my choices narrowed down to Louisiana Tech and Tennessee. And Tennessee was going to get ready to go play Old Dominion on the road. So I rode with Pat to the airport, and then somebody was going to drive me back. And on the way to the airport, before they got on the plane to go play Old Dominion, she starts asking me questions like, how to weigh my pros and cons. And then she just said, you know what? I have a real question for you. She said, if you had a chance to win a national championship and there was no time left on the clock and you were at the foul line to shoot the winning shot, who would you want to be shooting that shot for? Tennessee or Louisiana Tech? And I didn't answer. I just said, wow, that's a great question, Pat. And I was nervous, of course, So I didn't answer her. And I got out and went back, and I started thinking really hard about Tennessee, Louisiana Tech. And I promise you, every time I looked up, there would be a sign that said, come to Louisiana. And then I'd turn the radio on, and Rocky Top would be playing. So it was just this struggle going back and forth because I'd really gotten attached to Coach Barmore and all the La Tech players because I'd been to camp now several times there. But then, I've always looked up to Pat and watched the program grow from a little girl, watched Holly Warlick get her jersey retired at that game. And, I started thinking about, really my parents would never see me play. There was no televised games. It's 11 hours away. They could barely even come to the games. I know my grandmother couldn't. And, besides, my blood runs orange. And at the end of the day, I'm a Tennessee girl. So I had to call Coach Barmore up, and I said, hey, Coach, I just can't even thank you enough for all the interest you've shown to me. And thank you for recruiting me. I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to come there. You guys have an unbelievable program, but I'm going to have to go to Tennessee and play for Pat. And he said, Shelley, he said, I got a daughter. And if there's any other coach in the country that I would want her to play for, it would be Pat Summitt. Wow. So the respect there was just, no question. They've always had that respect. So then I picked up the phone to call Pat, and when she answers, says, hey, Pat, this is Shelley. I just want you to know I'm ready to shoot that free throw. Well, my very first collegiate game was against Louisiana Tech as a freshman, and we got killed. And I was terrible because I had just come back from a partially torn ACL. I partially tore my knee the day before we started official practice as a freshman, and I was supposed to get to play a lot as a freshman, and I was terrible. But I came back. I worked my way back, and so I got to play because we were losing by quite a bit. And Kim Mulkey, which all y'all know, she's a coach now, right. And she's not changed much. I would say she's not one of my favorite. She was the point guard as a senior. I was a freshman, and I probably had 4 fouls within 2 minutes. I got my first 3 shots blocked, one of them by Janice Lawrence, an All-American. And after the game, I think Louisiana Tech went in the locker room and just prayed for me because they felt so bad for me. That's what my friends said on the team anyway. But fast forward to my senior year, and we lost to them again. We lost to them every time we played them. We traveled there again, I think my junior year or sophomore year. And somebody didn't put my name in the book or something happened. So when I went and checked in the game, pretty sure it was my sophomore year. So when I went and checked in the game, the referee stopped and they called a technical. I guess somebody wrote the number. I don't know what happened. But it was me coming in the game, and there was a technical foul because of it. And Coach Barmore looked at Teresa Weatherspoon, and he told her, miss it. She goes, what? He said, miss the free throw. Because I had kept the relationship with him. I didn't burn that bridge, and he told his point guard to miss the free throws on purpose.
Wow.
And so then my senior year, we played Long Beach State in the semifinals, and we beat them, and they were averaging 97 points a game without the three-point line. 97 points a game was what Long Beach State was averaging. We beat them in the semifinals. So who we playing the championship game my senior year was Louisiana Tech. And we ended up beating them by 23 points, which was my number, jersey number. It's retired, of course. It's not because of me. It's because of Shamika Holtzclaw. But anyway, that's confirmation.
It's retired at Anderson County, and it's because of you.
It's just confirmation that, I went where God intended for me to go.
So let's talk a little bit about the transition. When you left Anderson County and you went to UT, what was the practices like? The first Pat Summitt practice when you go, and did you feel like you were prepared?
You know what? I do feel like I was prepared. Like I said, Pat's man-to-man. I mean, if you can't play defense, you don't play. And Coach Cross was an excellent teacher. He gave me the tools to be ready for that moment. I had worked my tail off to get to that point as well. And again, I hurt my knee prior to my getting to have real practice. We were playing pickup ball. But, it was hard, and it was very humbling because, when I hurt myself, I had worked all this time to get to that point, and then I felt like it was kind of taken away a little bit, and I really feel like God really humbled me, and he used that to help me grow as a better person, as a better leader for the Tennessee program, because I had to go through that injury. And when you're an athlete and you're injured, there's so much more you have to do. You have to be at practice when the team's at practice. You have to go to rehab before. You have to go to rehab after. I was riding the bike with one leg. I could hear it in my sleep. It just is a lot, and mentally, and people are asking you, well, what happened to you? So you feel like you need to wear a sign on the back. Yes, I'm injured. It was just a lot as a freshman to be in that spot. And then when their team traveled, they went to Disney World, and they traveled. You didn't get to go when you're injured. You had to stay home. So I just felt a lot of, different emotions and just what was going to happen, how was I going to come back from that. Then my sophomore year, I started. 2 other girls were injured, and I started right when after a couple games after into my sophomore year, and I never missed a start after that. I started from then on in the program.
So how did your relationship, and we'll get to this a little bit as we move along, but obviously you and Coach Summitt became close.
Yeah.
Very close. How did that start to develop? I mean, how did you go from a player to more of a intimate personal relationship with her?
First of all, she was tough. I mean, your practice was hard. She had a high expectation out of her point guards. They were supposed to be the extension of the coach on the floor. She demanded me to be vocal every single day, and if I wasn't, I was in trouble. My role was to communicate and be that leader on the floor and an extension of her on the floor. And so that was, that she challenged me every single day on that. One time, my sophomore year, she actually made me run a practice while they sat there and watched. I had to plan the practice, run the practice, and do the practice. I think that was the most mentally, and that probably prepared me for coaching, but that was the most mentally draining and physically draining that I'd been ever.
So were you 19?
Yeah, it was my sophomore year. It was me and Shelley Collins, who was a senior that year. She made us run practice, and so, we did. And I guess we did pretty good because she didn't say we didn't. But we did do some hard drills, but we also did some of our favorite drills. But it was a good practice. But I feel like if I'm going to a player, I never told her what she wanted, what I thought she wanted there. I was always honest. So if I didn't agree with her on something, then I just didn't agree. I didn't tell her what she wanted here, which everybody else would. They'd be scared to death and they wouldn't be truthful. And so, like when she was, hard on Sheila Frost, who she wanted to be a power post player, I went into her office. I'm like, look, you're killing her. You're going to lose her, and we need her. And she's never going to be a power post player. She is a finesse post player. You're trying to make her be somebody that she can't be. And Sheila's pretty darn good. I mean, but, she listened, I think, and respected me for that. And then the whole time I played for her, again, I always felt like she was putting a lot on me. Like my senior year, she told me I was being way too nice, and that nice guys finish last. And that's in her book. And so when we won the national championship, I tapped her on the shoulder and said, hey, Coach, nice guys don't always finish last. I got the last word. But then from player to her, I respected her. I wanted so bad for her to win a championship. It was not about us. It was about doing it for her and all the Lady Vols that had come before us. And we were really on a mission to do that. Our whole team, that whole 1987 team, who I keep in contact with most of them now, we have, if we had a reunion, everybody would come, except for the ones that are not living. But we have been really blessed to have a very unique, close team. We weren't the most talented team in the country, but we were the best team. And we won her first championship for her. And that was a great feeling. And then you asked me about relationship. Afterwards, she was my mentor when I went into coaching. she was who I sat down with. How do you handle parent meeting? How should I start out? What should I? We had those conversations. We X and O'd a lot. I would go over to her house, watch film. We would talk about things, So she was more like a mentor. And then I got into coaching for years, and she actually recruited some of my players, Faith Dupree and Glory Johnson. And so, that was pretty special. And then after a while, when she started going through a lot, it was more, we became friends. Mm-hmm. And I literally walked with her to the end of her life, which was very hard, but honored to be a friend.
Yeah. So, and you've touched on it a little bit, but how do you think your time with her, not only as a player, but also as a peer, how do you think that shaped who you are?
Well, I think when she first started recruiting me, I think she saw a lot of herself in me, like an overachiever. I feel like we had a lot of the same personality, intensity and passion and things that were my personality related to her. So that, that was why she was interested in me, I think, and just saw the ability to be able to lead, to be a leader. How she shaped me, I mean, there's not a day goes by that I don't remember something that she said or advice that she gave or just watching the way she walked. I mean, she had strong faith, but she wasn't outspoken about it. Like I know she had a relationship with the Lord. I know she did. Her favorite verse was Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. But she didn't talk about it. She just walked about it. Mm-hmm. And she was always serving others. Like there was not a time that I ever saw her not sign an autograph or not speak to someone that was trying to speak to her, or she would have us over and she would serve us dinner. She would home cook meals for us. Like that was special. Not everybody gets to do. Coach does that, and it wasn't just on the court stuff. It was off the court stuff. That mattered because she could be hard on us because she cared about us.
So, were you? Because I know every time I've gone to Thompson Bowling Arena, and I'm there. Well, maybe not every time, but I go there a lot, and I'll look up and I'll see your banner, and you and I haven't talked in a long time. We both grew up in Lake City, but we haven't. But I'll look up there and I'm like, I know somebody that played on that team. When you were playing there, were you aware of how much your hometown community followed you?
Yes.
And how much support you had?
I always felt supported by our hometown. I always wanted them to know how appreciative I was of my upbringing and my background, because I've had many teachers and coaches, Miss Kitts, that would watch me in the choir. I had to not misbehave in church, she helped me with my reading. There's teachers, there's coaches, there's other my teammates' parents, that were very influential and have me have a strong foundation in my faith and trust in the Lord Jesus, and that they show me that because, otherwise I wouldn't be where I was at. And I think one time I remember they bused a group of Lake City, I guess I don't know how many, but there were a lot of Lake City people that came to a particular game at Stokely Athletic Center. I remember when we played, and there were people that came from Lake City just to watch. And I had Miss Leach, and other people. I'm trying to think. Miss Pruitt. They would make scrapbooks for me, and they had, at the end of my career, they had all this stuff, and they would give it to me. So yeah, I was definitely aware that there were people that were, supportive of me, and it meant the world to me. My hometown meant the world to me. I always tried to, again, if someone wanted my autograph, it wasn't like it was like a boastful thing. It was a humble thing. I tried to do that and leave scripture with whoever it was.
So your senior year,
mm-hmm.
You're the team captain. Did you know going into that year that you guys had a chance to win a national championship?
Yes, I did. I was a bold freshman that came on the bus with the Booster Club members and promised them we were going to win a national championship. What I was thinking at the time, I have no idea. So just a little cocky freshman, I guess, coming on there. Or confident. I wouldn't say cocky. That's not the word I would describe me as. But I was confident that we were going to win a national championship. And I promised those Booster people that we were going to. And we had a great group of Booster people that followed us around. My Uncle Bud and Aunt Bonnie traveled with my parents and my mom, all of them. You know, a lot of people I've probably not even mentioned, so I hate to even mention people because I'm going to leave somebody out. But so we got close my freshman year, even though I wasn't a key role in terms of playing. I was a freshman. I did come off the bench. It was the first televised game. CBS televised the national championship game. It was USC, Cheryl Miller and McGee twins. I was a freshman. We were playing for the national championship. We had 5 seniors on the team that year. We were losing. All the other freshmen were sitting back like this, like, don't call me. And there she was subbing the seniors out. And I was like, looking forward, was like, go in. So I go in. They announced me on TV, Shelley Sexton. So my teammates that are freshmen with me that year, they were dying laughing when we went back and watched the replay. They still give me a hard time about that. They called me Shirley after that for a long time. But then, you know, my junior year, it was at Lexington, and so we played again, USC. That girl that was guarding me, she was good, and she's probably a better person now. But at the time, she was not a very good person because she called me literally everything in the book, and I was having a year. I was having a good year. We upset Georgia and Katrina McClain and the girl I mentioned that was a 4-time Olympic, Teresa Edwards. I guarded her. We upset them in the Mideast Regional, and we went on to the Final Four, and we were playing USC. And like I said, she called me every name in the book. Really just totally took me mentally out of my game. I could not move. It was one of the worst games I'd ever had. And so we ended up losing. And then so the last chance was my senior year. And we just prayed on it. We would have team meetings. We would call them on our own. We talked about how bad we wanted to win. We all had a role to play. We loved each other. We supported each other. We were all different, but we came together. We wanted that. We wanted to win. We were on a mission to win it, and we did.
Pretty cool to be the team captain of Pat's first national champion. I mean, nothing's going to change that. You were the captain of that team who brought Pat her first national championship. That's pretty cool. Young girl out of Lake City.
Yep. Homegrown.
Well, when you got through playing ball, you transitioned into coaching. What were some of the key moments, and how did that happen? How did you go, I think this is where I want to go?
Well, I wasn't really sure after being a GA and got my master's under Pat if I really wanted to coach or not, because she wore me out. We didn't have managers, you know. We didn't have people that did all these jobs. I went from winning a national championship to washing uniforms to driving the team van to staying up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and dubbing all the offensive series. And the technology was terrible back then on VHS tapes. All the offensive series and go back to the same game with all the defense so they could watch film. I would sign her name, write letters to people that were trying to, you know, and tell them that they probably weren't good enough to play there. And I had to watch to find out when they did send tape, I would be watching. All the jobs that no one wants to do, I wanted just to coach, you know. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. So, but I got my master's degree, and I tried to make the best, and I did learn a lot as a GA. But when I first came out, I had an opportunity to go take a lady was getting ready to have a leave. She was leaving for pregnancy, and I could go there for a year. Or Clinton was open, so I interviewed for the Clinton job. And I said, well, I may only be here for 1 year. And they said, well, if we were going to hire the best math teacher, then we would hire the best math teachers for a year. So we want to hire, because I told them I didn't know how long I'd be there, and ended up staying for 4 years and got into coaching and loved it. The first win, they hadn't won a game for 3 years at Clinton. My first year, we won 5 games, and I probably had 5 technical fouls to go with it. But the first game that we won, they hadn't won a game in 3 years, and I'll never, ever forget it. No one should take winning ever for granted. These girls were playing at Powell, and we went into double overtime. And the boys' team they're biting at the bullets because they're used to coming out after a loss, but they are you could feel the excitement and the energy in the gym. And when we actually won that game, that's the first time those girls had won in 3 years in double overtime. Those boys tackled those girls at half court. It was one of the most special moments in my coaching career. I will never forget that first win.
Wow. And then the next year, how many wins did you
get?
The
next year we won 12, but we went to the state tournament the first time in the history of the school in any sport at Clinton. So we end up that you blind draw, you go down there. Campbell County went to, I think Sherry Chapman was a coach there. She was a former Lady Vols for a little while and then went to LMU. She drew Shelbyville, the best team, and I drew the second best team, White County. And we were down by 2 at halftime, but then ended up getting one of my best players got in foul trouble, so Monty Scruggs. So we ended up getting beat. But yeah.
So you went from Clinton and I believe Carnes, Webb, and now you're at Lenore City.
Right. I was a Dragon. I was a Beaver. I was a Spartan, and now I'm a Panther. Yep, that's right.
But you're not only coaching now. What have you gotten yourself into now?
Yeah, well, I've been coaching for 38 years. I've enjoyed every place I've been. Learned something everywhere. It's always a challenge because everybody does different. So anytime that you put yourself out there and you do change jobs, it stretches you. It makes you grow. It gets you out of your comfort zone. And I've learned how to adapt with that because I know that it's going to take me a little minute to get it right, from each job change. But I have thoroughly enjoyed every place because of the kids that I've been able to coach, the relationships that were built, and I've just really have enjoyed my coaching career. Now what I'm doing now is I took on the district athletic director position at Lenore City High School, but I'm still coaching. So this is another learning curve and getting out of my comfort zone a little bit because my brain is scattered in a lot of different areas.
Right.
But I hope, every time that's happened, I've been prayerful about it. I think, it's not been something I haven't prayed about or felt led to make a change. I've always done it prayerfully. Even in my decision in college, that was the same way. I mean, the decisions you make in your life, you just have to listen and you have to think on it and you have to feel like that's where you're supposed to be. And I feel like right now I'm at a point where I can keep giving back to other coaches and to other players, not just my players. So that's why I took this challenge on, and hopefully I'll do a good job. But right now I feel like I've got a lot to learn.
Well, I want to read this to you because when you and I started talking about this, I talked to some people you played with.
Oh, gosh.
And some people you played against.
Okay.
And this was a text I got from a guy. And this is what he said about you. I told him, I said, hey, you may want to watch the next Storyteller episode. I'm going to interview Shelley. And here's what his response was. She is the greatest. Simply put, the toughest player I ever played against, male or female. She's an absolute legend. True story, he says. We're playing in a pickup game at Norris Dam at the pool. I accidentally knocked her down because she was guarding me pretty hard. It scraped her chin on the concrete. She got up, wiped the blood off her mouth with the back of her hand, and got right back in the defensive stance. She was totally beast mode before that was a thing. That was his comment.
Yeah, I do remember taking that hit. I took a charge. I thought I was taking a charge. Yeah, those were fun times. Yeah, I do remember that. That was Bill Holt, wasn't it?
It was. It was.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what we did. We played ball at the pool on the asphalt, and then we'd go jump and do 1.5s off the diving board.
All the people that I talked to, I think one of the things that really stood out and the things that I heard the most was that word. That's why I was tough. People referred to you as tough, and you wouldn't back down. I know you played a lot of one-on-one against Jody in that dirt.
I was going to say, I grew up with Jody Wright, and his dad was my principal, but we would go out. There would be rocks here and there, and he didn't let me shoot, by the way. I had to rebound for him. So, that's how I learned how to rebound, was because I had to rebound, because if it hit the ground and I didn't catch it in the air off the miss, I'm chasing that ball wherever it's going to go. So, but yeah, Jody, he did. He spent some time with me. We worked out. I mean, I think we went to the gym sometimes. And yeah, when you play against guys, it does make a difference. And
Yeah.
I did that. I tried to, always put myself in a position to be challenged.
When you're coaching your teams now, what are some of the core values that you try to emphasize in your players?
Accountability, taking responsibility for their own actions and taking ownership of themselves and their team, family, loyalty, integrity, honesty, discipline, a lot of different core values, but it's something every day. That's the beauty of coaching, is there's so many things that you can teach and touch on and emphasize. But I will say our teams that I've been able to have the honor to coach, I mean, we've been close, and it's more like a family than it is, a team, because you go through a lot, in one game, all the different emotions that you can imagine, you go through them all together. And that's what makes you tough. And you got people that you can count on, and you look back on the experiences. Hopefully they look back on the experiences and they know that they're never alone. If they get in a situation that, because they've been on a part of a team and a part of a family unit, that they understand that they can pick up that phone and call somebody. They're never alone. And, people got your back. I've enjoyed, like I said, relationships. The relationships are the most important. I don't know the wins and losses that I have. Somebody asked me that. I just don't. I just know that I've been so blessed and fortunate to have coached a lot of terrific, tough young ladies.
What do you think? I'm just curious about this, because at this point, when you look back, you, Jody, and Clark grew up in a town, 1,300 people. I'm not saying this is the right answer, but an argument could be made that you three are in the short list for best coaches at what you do. With Jody with basketball, high school basketball, Clark with baseball, and then football some too, and then you with ladies basketball. It's kind of weird that y'all would grow up in the same community, in a small community. What do you think created that?
I don't know how to put. I can't put my finger on it. There's just a lot of intangibles there. I mean, the small town community, the family, the support, the competition, constant jabbing and poking at it. Just trying to get the best out of each other. The drive, the heart. We learned how to work hard. In the classroom, out of the classroom, and the core values. All that started in Lake City. It didn't just happen. It started there. It's rooted there. I just feel honored to be mentioned in that with Jody and Clark, because they are elite coaches, and I don't think I've ever arrived. I think as a coach, you're constantly trying to find ways to be better, to be innovative. The game changes, so you've got to change. You got to. Kids change. How you coach them is different than when I first started coaching. You can't coach them as hard as I did when I was at Clinton. I can't coach them as hard as I do. I coach them hard at Clinton, but I can't do that at Lenore City. There's a difference in how things have evolved and things that kids experience in today's society. And I mean, it's just different. And I think, I've learned to adapt. I've learned to try to grow and continue to do that. And I think so has, Jody, and he's still coaching. He's never going to retire. But I feel very blessed to be in this. More than just a job for me, it's a calling. And I have so many people that I'm grateful for, that the way that I've been able to say thank you to them, and all three of my coaches have now passed on, is to just get up, put one foot in front of the other, and do the best I can every day.
So when I interviewed Jody, he said, and this is still stuck in my head, when I interviewed him and Clark, he said at Fulton, and this is simple but just solid practice. He said, the standard is the standard. When it gets hard, it's like, do you want to win or not?
Yeah.
Because the standard is the standard. If you don't want to meet that, then you're not going to be a winner, because that's the standard.
Yeah.
The standard is the standard. And I walked away from that, and I actually wrote that down, and and now I can't get it out of my head. It's no matter what you do, whether you're playing ball, whether you're trying to advance in a career, be a better husband, the standard is the standard, and I thought that was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to ask you, and this may be a tough question for you, but I was following this from afar, and I think a lot of people were. One of the most difficult nights of your coaching career had to be last year. You get into the playoffs, and you find yourself coaching you look across the sidelines, and you find yourself coaching against your daughter to advance in the playoffs. Now, this is somebody that you brought into this world, had raised, had taught to play the game, had coached, and now you're coaching against her. What was that experience like?
That was probably the most difficult experience that I've ever had in coaching. I mean, first of all, Katie could have had the Lenore City job. I wasn't really looking to leave, but they wanted her. They called me about her, and I ended up offering it to me and talking me into coming to Lenore City. So let me just say that first of all. And then when I took it, I realized that we were going to be competing in the same region, that we could potentially play each other. So, the second, that was last year. That was my second year. Katie has done a phenomenal job coaching at Saudi Daisy. She's completely turned that program around and has, I'm so proud of her, first of all. And all my girls. The blessing for me also, and I haven't mentioned this, is having the opportunity to coach all four of my daughters. And our teams were close lots because of them, because we had kids over our house all the time. They were best friends. But Katie and I did face off in the game that was do or die. One of us was going to go home. One of us was going to go on. And, we talked about it, and we tried not to make it be a big deal, but it was. Mm-hmm. And I think, obviously I wanted to win and be proud of my team, and we did. And I think we were the better team. But, at the same time, you sit there and watch her, cry and be upset for her and her team. It's hard. But I couldn't be more proud of Katie, and we've had some really, really neat moments together. She's played for 4 state championships when I coached her and won 3. So she knows what winning looks like, and she's a competitor. And
how many state championships have you won as a coach?
I haven't won any, but my players have won 6. We've played for 10.
Wow!
And we could have played this year. Heritage ended up winning the state championship. We lost to them in overtime twice. So, I feel like it's just hard. It's hard. Coaching is harder and getting harder and harder, and it's harder to get to that level now, So.
Well, for what it's worth, there was a lot of conversation at my school about that game.
I bet there was.
Travis and Jenny and I kind of talked a little bit about it. So, actually a lot of bit about it, because it was like, and of course there were several news stories that made the local news, and I just thought, man, that's just got to be excruciating.
Yeah.
I mean, for both of you.
Mm-hmm. We didn't talk for about 2 days, and she wouldn't answer me. So, but finally she did.
Got to have a little time, a little break.
Yeah, we're good though.
So let's move forward a little bit. This is something that when I found this out, I was like, wow, you had the honor of being one of the people that were asked to eulogize Coach Summitt. So it was, when she passed away, it was Tyler, Tamika Catchings, Peyton Manning, and you, I believe.
Holly and Mickey.
Okay, so there were some other ones.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you to speak at Coach Summitt's service?
It was very, very emotional. Again, one of the toughest things I've ever had to do in my life. But at the same time, there was a lot about her. It's easy to talk about her because she's such a great coach, a great person. It was hard. It was emotional, but I was honored to be asked to do that. I was actually a pallbearer in her funeral, so it was me and a couple of guys and another one of her teammates. But she would always, when in our last days together, we would walk. I would help her do her walking, her ab work. We would do some stuff together, and if it was raining, we'd walk on the treadmill, and I would listen to her talk and then repeat it again. And just the opportunity for me to be here, because not everyone gets to do that and have the opportunity to walk with her and encourage her, and her still kind of know that she knows me, was a definite honor. Having coffee with her hazelnut cream in it, we did that. And being able to stand up in front of, a lot of other players and speak on their behalf, it was an honor. Because anybody else could have been doing that as well. There's a lot of stories. Everybody has one. I'm not the only one. But I did call Katie Wynn, her secretary, and try to go through some of the things I was trying to say to get her approval on it, because Pat would always get her approval on some things. So Katie Wynn was gracious enough to listen to me and work with me through that. And anyway, just an honor.
Well, again, that was one of those situations for me, when that happened, I was like, man, there's 2 Hall of Famers up there, college and pro, and Shelley. And she's one of us.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
And I just had, I'm just me. I mean, I'm not Peyton Manning or Hall of Famer or Tamika Catchings, but I was her friend. I was her player. She was my mentor, and we were friends. And so, like I said, it was an honor to be able to speak on behalf of all of the other Lady Vols. That's what Tamika and I both felt like.
That's a neat story. Well, Shelley, you've accomplished a lot. As you look back over all the things you've done, and there's a lot of them, what are some of the things you were most proud of?
I'm proud of all the teams I've had. Proud to, my national championships are my daughters. That's the proudest thing. That's the most important thing that I've done, is be a mom. I couldn't. They're my heart, and yep, they're a gift.
That's important. I know we talked about that on the phone, and I thought that when you said that to me when we spoke, that I'm asking you about a national championship, and you tell me that you got 4.
Yeah.
And it's your kids. It's a cool story. A lot of high school athletes talk about their coaches as being instrumental figures in their lives, and key in their development, where they are as a human being at that time. How important is that role to you, to be that for your players?
You heard the saying where a coach can impact a kid in a year more than some people can in a lifetime, and I take that very seriously, because I'm not perfect, and I'm sure when I'm wrong, and I will tell my players, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I mean, I want them to be able to feel like they can communicate with me, and I just, I want to be somebody they look to as solid and as strong, as tough, and a place where they can, if they need me, that they know I'm going to be there. So I don't take my role lightly at all. I think every time I get up every morning, like I said, it's an honor to be able to be a called coach, and to get to pour into kids and invest in kids, and hopefully create really some special memories. And, then as you watch them go on, and hopefully the experience they had with you is one of the best they've had in their life, getting the degree at their high school and playing ball and learning all the things that you can learn through athletics, that they've got tools now that they can use as they continue down their journey of life. They can pull those tools out of that toolbox when they need them to use them. So, I get the chance to develop young women, and hopefully some strong young women, and help them through things. And, now I've got, I just saw one the other day. I heard her she came to my daughter's getting ready to have a baby. My second oldest is going to have a baby here September 28th, somewhere in there. And one of my former players came to the baby shower, and she had her little girls there. They're twins. So, I mean, I've watched a lot of my, players just grow into just beautiful women, strong women, good mothers, good wives, and that's rewarding.
Do you still have a lot of your old players call you when they have seminal moments, a graduation, a a marriage? You know,
Yes.
they still communicate with you?
I've attended weddings. I've, gotten pictures of their newborns and or get a phone call, or a text message, "Happy birthday, Coach," or, "Hey, I'm in town," just checking in and seeing how you're doing. Those are fun.
Yeah. So we're kind of rounding third here and headed for home. So I got a few more for you. If you could travel back in time to Lake City High School or Anderson County, and you could revisit with the 17, 18-year-old then Shelley Sexton, what would you tell her?
I've thought about that question since you asked me the other day. I don't know, first of all, that I would change anything. I mean, the way things were, the decisions that the Lord has helped me to make throughout my life. I mean, you go right or left, but you choose the path, and He's going to lead. I just don't think that I have any regrets at this moment in my life as far as anything that I've done growing up, or the places I've been able to go, the people I've been able to meet, the relationships I've been able to establish, and friendships. But to my old self, maybe, just try to enjoy it a little bit more. Stop and smell the roses, and, try not to take life so seriously all the time. It's going to be okay. I think I would just maybe take a breath and recognize a little bit more and be more in the moments than I have been, instead of trying to rush through and do the next thing. Mm-hmm. I think I would just slow down a bit and just try to take it all in. So
you talked about you're at a stage where you're about to have your first grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your goals as you move forward? I mean, this is a new phase of life for you. What do you want to do next?
I just want to continue to be better than I am, to hope tomorrow I'll be better than I am today. Stay healthy so I can enjoy those moments as they come. Be there for my daughter, be there for my grandson. I'm looking forward to those moments. There's going to be some beautiful family moments ahead with 4 girls. That's going to happen. So more and more. Right. And I'm looking forward to every phase of life, like even with my daughters, like, when they were born, and then they go to the 2s, and then they go. I've enjoyed every stage that they've been in, and I enjoy their adult stage now. I've got one that's still out in Tampa. She just graduated UT, but the other 3 are married, and now they're starting their own lives, and just getting to be a part of what's next for them is what I'm looking forward to. Somewhere in the future is retirement, but I've still got to work right now. I've got a lot to work for.
Well, Shelley, I can't thank you enough for coming in and doing this. I know you got a busy schedule, and you had conflicts when I was trying to get a hold of you, but we finally worked it out. And I can't tell you how much, because I think this is our 8th show.
Okay.
And when Ryan and I started kicking this idea around and just mentioning it to people, kind of interesting. Your family is the first group to have 2 people interviewed. Oh, wow. I mean, we interviewed your dad, obviously.
He's one of a kind.
He is that.
He is so special.
He is. And then people mention you a lot. So I am super thrilled that you were able to come in and we were able to get this done. I know people are going to be super excited. So thank you so much for coming in and doing it.
Well, the only people I didn't mention was, the rest of my family, my siblings. They had a big part in how we grew up too. So, I've been blessed to have 5 siblings that I've loved with all my heart. Melissa, Wade, Jenny, Ashley, and Pete, and my parents. What a jewel they are. My mom and dad both are tremendous supporters and givers, and so a lot goes into to me being influenced by my parents as well, and my siblings. So I thank the town of Lake City for what they've meant to me, and thank you for this opportunity for me to get to be able to say that. And I hope I've not bored people to death with the stories here.
I do not think so. And not too many families have got 2 national championships, but yours
my
does.
brother Wade, at Furman.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you this really quick story, and then we'll be done, I promise. A few years ago, I had a friend of mine that I went to UT with whose family has season tickets at Furman. And I went with him he called and said, "Hey, you want to go to a game?" And they had access to the Paladin Club and all that stuff, and I went with them, and I was just kind of walking through looking at the pictures. And there was the picture of the national championship team, and Stephen and I were just standing there, and I said, "Hey, I know that guy," and he's like, "Who?" And I said, "That's Wade Sexton. We grew up together," and so there were people walking around, and they heard me say that, and for the next 20 minutes, I had people gathered around wanting to know. They knew every player.
Really?
Oh yeah.
George Quarles on there too.
Yeah. It was, I think, was Wade's roommate. About and so I talked for 20 minutes to people that I didn't know because I grew up and knew Wade Sexton, and he was in that national championship picture.
I just want to say to you how special you are and what you're doing to tell stories and promote Lake City and the people of the town and what you're doing. You are special. And I feel honored to be have you as my friend, and so does my family. So
thank you.
We love you.
Thank you. Wow, that was a whole lot nicer than I thought I was going to get today. Once again, we'd like to thank Shelley Collier
over there.
We'd like to thank Shelley Collier for coming in, doing our episode 8 of Storytellers. Tune in September when we'll have a new guest for episode 9. Thanks again. We'll see you in September.